The Central Bank of Nigeria sells 4.1 trillion naira worth of special bills introduced last week. Nigeria is at a critical juncture with a choice to make, says Shubham Chaudhry, World Bank Country Director for Nigeria. Markets across the world tumbled as uncertainties stemming from COVID-19 vaccines and stimulus measures persists. The program is Business Express and it is reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Leah Katung Babatunde. It's National Pensioners Day, and Nigerian pensioners have resorted to seek the face of God for the timely payment of their pensions in gratuity. This next phase formed part of the focus during the 2020 National Pensioners Day, where the senior citizens are expectant of a miracle that will make them smile before the end of the year. Emmanuel Ayemi reports.
Section 173, subsection 3, and Section 210, subsection 3 of the 1999 Constitution, pension shall be reviewed every 5 years or whenever workers' wages are reviewed, whichever comes earlier. Until now, members of the Nigeria Union of Pensioners say they are still waiting for government, particularly at the state level, to implement this provision.
As far as the state governments are concerned, that is, state governments still remain nonchalant, very indifferent.
Concerning recent plan to borrow about 17 trillion naira from contributory pension fund for certain projects, the senior citizens say safety of the fund is what is paramount in the Constitution.
Many of these state governments have not keyed into the contributory pension. We don't want a situation when these people retire, then we say there's no money to pay them. We will make every state of the federation ungovernable the moment we hear they borrow the money.
Although the theme for the 2020 National Pension Day is making life better and worth living for pensioners, retirees noted that what would make their life better is the payment of pension and gratuity as at when due. Emmanuel Ayemi.
The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has flagged off the 2020-2021 dry season rice farming, targeting more than 5 million metric tons of paddy rice in Niger State. Mukhtar Abubakar Wowo reports that the event is under the Refund CBN and Borrowers program.
These are not the historic Egyptian or Kano granite pyramids, rather paddy rice pyramids as part of the 10% loan recovery drive in Niger State under the Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria, Central Bank of Nigeria and Co-Brewers program.
Beyond being a tool for economic empowerment, job creation and wealth redistribution, it has also galvanized financial inclusion for our rural communities.
This dry season program is going to be the largest this country I've ever witnessed, and it's going to be in 2 cycles. We're going to start one in November, and it's going to end in February, and another one in March, and it's going to end before the rain comes out.
While unveiling the about 700,000 hectares mapped rice farmland, Governor Abubakar Sani Bello of Niger State commended the federal government initiative.
I want to believe we're the #1 producers of rice, but the data will show. Out of the 7 million tons Nigeria requires per annum, I believe Nigeria can do up to 2 million metric tons. We have almost 9 million hectares of land.
Nigeria will not import rice again because we have more than enough within the country. And let me tell you the beauty of refusing rice to enter into Nigeria. Everything you see here, it was cultivated by Nigerians.
The 2020-2021 input distribution to rice farmers for 2 dry season farming in the state under the Refund CBN and Co-Borrowers program is part of the federal government's efforts at bridging the gap caused by floods in this year's wet season.
The Apex Bank also this Thursday sold 4.1 trillion worth of special bills following last week's introduction of the 90-day instrument in the money market. The instrument is expected to avail the Monetary Authority additional liquidity management tool, support the country's economic recovery efforts, and deepen the financial market. The Apex Bank also announced new capital requirements and license categorization for payment service providers. This is coming on the heels of Governor of the bank, Godwin Emefiele's outline of the impact of the Anchor Borrower Scheme, which was set up to assist smallholder farmers. And Fitch Ratings say it expects Nigerian bank assets quality to weaken over the next 12 to 18 months. In a new report, what investors now want to know, Nigerian banks' debt relief measures have prevented a material rise in impaired loans in 2020, but Fitch forecasts the average impaired loan ratio to range between 10% to 12% by the end of 2021 as these measures end. Earnings are expected to recover gradually with the economy, but remain exposed to further economic shock from oil price volatility. Meanwhile, the Naira strengthened this week after banks commenced payment of diaspora remittances in dollars to beneficiaries as directed by the central bank. And reports, however, say investors are facing an unprecedented level of forex scarcity, with the contribution from official sources down to as low as 23% of their total FX demand. How is the Nigerian currency faring this Friday against the greenback and other currencies? On that note, let's see how the exchange market is. Director of the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, FAN, Captain Rabiu Yadudu, has said that the new terminal at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos, currently under construction by the China Civil Engineering Construction Corporation, CCECC, will be commissioned in February 2021. Speaking when the House Committee on Aviation visited the agency's facility at the Lagos Airport as part of its oversight function, Captain Yadudu also said in a bid to optimize its revenue generation, collection, reduce cost and promote efficiency, FAN has promoted cashless policy and plugged some loopholes in the system. The terminal, he said, would have been completed this December, but for the emergence of COVID-19. The terminal is one of the 4 the federal government embarked upon in 2013, with completion date set for 24 months. Now, indeed, the aviation sector has been in the news for a good number of reasons. In a moment, we shall be looking at some of the issues, and joining me is Bello Ahmed Alkali, the Managing Director of Air Safari Limited. You're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you for having me. Good to be here.
Okay, great. Now, what is happening in the industry? We've seen within the space of 1 week, skyrocketing prices of airfares and, of course, job cuts. What is happening?
Yeah, it is absolutely a very surprising situation that we find ourselves in today. Surprising in the sense that it just started like a joke. But before you could say jack, I mean, we are having an increase of about 250% in fare. Absolutely, people will be worried. Absolutely, people will be wondering what is going on. There is the issue of maybe probably fuel cost, and there is the issue of spare parts being bought in dollars, the dollars that are not available. I understand perfectly, but most of the times, what I observe in the aviation sector in Nigeria is that a lot is always put on the government. Most of the people, they try as much as possible to say, okay, government should do this, do that, do this, do that, but I want to believe if you are in business and if you know exactly how to run this business, you should be able to handle the situation the way it should be handled.
Well, we've also heard that this morning in Lagos one way, someone bought tickets for as much as 85,000 naira. And we're looking at all these situations. Some are attributing it to increase in taxes and fares being paid by the players in the industry, exchange rate, as you've rightly put out. But again, ICAO says that only one price regime. How do we now marry these issues as one?
I want to believe, whether we like it or not, the government will have to step in, and step in very good. Because at the end of the day, we used to have what is called price control, but it's no more there. If the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority will step up and have a price control, to now sit down with these operators and say, okay, fine, let's have your cost benefit analysis. What is going on? Is it the fuel increase? Is it the taxes? Are we doing anything wrong to you guys that will make you improve upon your prices? Then by the time they sit down, then they can iron these situations together with the operators. But it's not always right for the government to just sit down, fold its arms, and find out that operators are charging exorbitant prices the way they want to charge. I mean, the NCA used to have what is called a consumer protection department. I don't know if they is still available or not, but they used to have a directorate that is specifically handling such cases of knowing whether airlines are doing the right thing as regards to price, as regards to passengers' comfort, and complaints from the passengers.
Okay, so you made mention a couple of times now for the airline operators to know what to do. And we've also seen in other climes this sector receiving bailouts from the government. So I'm asking these questions because we're having to see that, yes, maintenances have to be carried out. For instances, outside the country, we hear airlines are paying as much as about 1 billion naira or thereabout. When you now walk the exchange rates, restrictions came, no movements, and we will talk about the forces of demand and supply. What has maintenance now got to do with these prices? That's on one leg. Now on the second leg, of course, is the price regime that we're seeing right now. Do you think it is going to persist up to Christmas time, New Year, when people are having to travel a lot?
Yeah, unfortunately, if you consider the devastation of the COVID-19, the world over has shaken. So, I mean, it affected mostly the aviation and the tourism industry. Okay, that's been said. When you talk about servicing of these airplanes, you know, if you have a good business operator, he knows exactly in 18 months or so, thereabout, he is going to take his aircraft for C-check. Of course, definitely it's not going to be today. So if you are running a business and you are telling me in 18 months, you are flying an aircraft that is carrying 150 passengers every day and you cannot save $2 million for you to take your aircraft on C-check, then you have no business doing that business. The Nigerian aviation industry is bedeviled with the fact that we may not have per se professionals handling the situation. We have a situation whereby somebody wakes up in the morning, I have money, okay, he goes, he buys an aeroplane. I give you two scenarios in Nigeria. Chechengi used to be a household name in Nigeria. Chechengi was doing extremely well when he had partnership with a company called Aviogenics somewhere in Bulgaria. I know they're somewhere in Bulgaria. Okay. At that time, they provide him with the aircraft. All he does is a commission agent. At the end of the day, business is good. How much is made? He paid for the aircraft. His money goes into the bank. Money was rolling in. And suddenly somebody advised him, oh, Alhaji, you have enough money to buy an aeroplane. That was the end of Chechengi, because I can tell you in black and white now, we cannot handle that kind of situation. Amadi Chechengi was a transporter, but he was not a transporter in aviation, he was a transporter in trucks. These are two different entities altogether.
Well, we've now that you've mentioned that, we have a good number of rising companies also coming into the aviation sector, and it is said that the lifespan of most of these companies is 4 years in Nigeria.
Reason being that, like I said, in Nigeria we run these businesses absolutely, probably sometimes just for patronage sake. I had an airline, my boss, I'll be boarding an aircraft, will tell me, Bello, where is my aircraft? I will tell him I'm in Lagos and I'm boarding to go to Port Harcourt. He'll say, oh, is that your aircraft? My friend is coming, he's going to Sokoto, drop everybody, take him to Sokoto. That is not how to run an aviation industry. That is exactly why most of the airlines that we had, Okada, Cabo, Triax, ADC, Oriental, all these airlines ended up simply because they were not following the rules and regulations. They were not following the formulas of the fact that if you fly an aeroplane today, you have to save money today for it to go on C-check in 18 months. They were not following absolutely anything when it comes to the aviation industry.
So we still have a problem.
We still have a problem. And then the issue again with the Nigerian factor. Another example I want to give you, Richard Branson, who is the group chair of Virgin Atlantic, came to Nigeria to do an aviation business. Did he succeed? You and I know that he did not succeed. In 6 months, he has to close shop. That is the Nigerian factor I'm talking to you about. Unfortunately, we just have to mellow down, sit down, cross our fingers. We are resilient people. Today, I get to the airport, I want to go to Lagos, it's 80,000. Oh my God, I have a wedding, I have to attend, I buy my ticket. As soon as I landed in Lagos, I've forgotten. So, but still, I will urge and probably make a case for these passengers. These airlines should please reconsider, because I want to believe they can still make money with less amount of money they are charging today. That I know.
And I would also want to ask you, all over the world, when it's the peak of holiday seasons, prices drop. Not just the airlines now. People are going on promotions all over the world. But our case seems to be so different. Why is our case different? You pay more to travel during holidays.
Yeah, unfortunately the scenario or the enabling environment, they are completely different. Why do I say they are completely different? Okay, for example, it's always at the end of the year that you realize whether you are looking for PMS or you are looking for Jet A1, there is going to be definitely fuel crisis. Why is that? Nobody can say till today. As soon as December hits, definitely you will see traffic on your roads. Why is that? Nobody can say why. But I know both Europe and Americas, when it is the altitude period, you have special promotions that I can see a ticket for just $10 for me to get home. But it can never happen in Nigeria because, like I said, of the factors militating against the operation of these companies.
So what will be the way out? You've also mentioned consistently the Nigerian factor.
Yeah.
How can we make our factor a different one, not this one that we're having all the time to call the Nigerian factor? I mean, a positive factor.
Our problem here got to do with the fact that everything is dependent on the government, unfortunately. If we have had an economy that is robust, that is open, I don't feel like I have to talk to the government for me to find a contract. I don't feel like I have to talk to the government for my son to be employed. There are companies moving, business is booming. I mean, everything will sit in place. The aviation sector, as far as I'm concerned, is dependent on the economy generally itself. Because, I mean, if you don't have businesses, you are not flying. But in other climes, it is not about you have to have a business for you to fly. Because you already have a job that is paying you good, you can afford your ticket, you can travel. And there are so many low-cost airlines. They are the ones giving us these aeroplanes. They are the ones sometimes training us. They are the ones giving us the crew. There are so many costs benefit analysis, if you sit down and you think very well, that you will understand in the Nigerian situation, well, will find it very difficult to operate.
So before I let you go, in 1 minute, can you tell us how can we save jobs in aviation now that we're having them being laid off?
Unfortunately, at this point in time, I'm not seeing anything good coming. Probably maybe towards the end of 2021, then we have had this vaccine of an issue. We have had maybe COVID-19 behind our backs. I mean, a lot of businesses will strive again for people to get employed. But at this point in time, every business is struggling to survive.
Okay, thank you most sincerely for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Great. In the next 3 years, an average Nigerian could see a reversal of decades of economic growth, and the country could enter its deepest recession since the 1980s. This is part of the latest World Bank Nigeria Development Update (NDU), which points that this path could be avoided if progress in the current reforms is sustained and the right mix of policy measures is implemented. The report, Rising to the Challenge, Nigeria's COVID response, takes stock on the recently implemented reforms and proposes policy options to mitigate the impact of COVID-19 and foster a resilient, sustainable and inclusive recovery. Shibam Chowdhury, World Bank Country Director for Nigeria, said Nigeria is at a critical historical juncture with a choice to make. The latest World Bank NDU projects that the economy could shrink up to 4% in 2020 following the twin shocks of COVID-19 and low oil prices. The pace of recovery in 2021 and beyond remains highly uncertain and subject to the pace of reforms. The pandemic is disproportionately affecting the poor and most vulnerable, women in particular, in the absence of measures to mitigate the impact of the crisis. The World Bank says the number of poor could increase by 15 to 20 million by the year 2020. Now, commodity prices have been dragged down by global uncertainties. Let's take a look at prevailing prices this Friday. Now, stocks continued the downward slide Friday as sell pressure persists ahead of the holidays. The NSE All Share Index depreciated by 0.94% to close at 34,250.74 basis points, with market capitalization also down at 17.9 trillion naira. Investors traded 796 million shares valued at 4.46 billion naira in 4,810 deals. Jaiz Bank, Regal Insurance and Access Bank were the most traded stocks for the day. And away from home, European stocks tumbled on COVID-19 vaccine setback, while U.S. equity futures fall on stimulus worries. Boston Abel has been looking at the global market.
European markets are mostly in the red Friday as investors monitored the rollout of coronavirus vaccine and the rapidly approaching deadline for Brexit talks. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson said Thursday that there was now a strong possibility for the UK departing the EU orbit without a free trade agreement at the end of the month. Stock futures in the United States were also lower in early trade as the outlook for additional fiscal stimulus remained uncertain. Dow Jones Industrial Average indicated an opening loss of about 170 points. S&P 500 and Nasdaq 100 futures also slide slightly into negative territory. The early Friday action followed back-to-back losses for the S&P 500 as negotiations over a coronavirus relief deal dragged on. Asia-Pacific markets on their own part traded mixed as investors kept an eye on negotiations over additional additional fiscal stimulus in the U.S. In Japan, the Nikkei declined 0.39% to 26,652.52. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index advanced 0.36% in afternoon trade, while Shanghai Composite was down 0.77% at 3,347.19. Stock in Africa also bled in Friday trade, with only Namibia's overall index recording a marginal gain of 0.04% at 1,225.88 points. With global updates, Boss Today Able, Business Express.
And this is how we wrap the program today, this Friday, and of course the last edition for the week. Remember to keep in touch with us, so do send in your comments, observations, and suggestions. Also be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on the NTA's channel. You can also communicate with us on Twitter. The handle is NTA News Now, and don't forget to use the hashtag. It is BizExp. Business Express returns Monday. I am Leah Katun. Baba Tunde.